Hey, welcome back to CodeTav Management. So in the last two lectures, we have deep dive on the JWT. So today we will mainly discuss about the OAuth 2.0. So whenever you click login with Google or continue with Facebook, then you are trusting a third-party application with your data without ever giving them your actual password, right? So today I'm gonna tell you like how that background things happening. So what is the magic behind that? So how does that actually work? So today we are doing a complete high level design deep dive into Auth 2.0. So this is the industry standard framework that powers the entire modern internet. Okay, so we are going to break down the four core actors, then trace the exact API calls for the famous authorization code grant, and also we will learn about like exactly when to use the client credentials in your microservices. So let's architect secure systems. Okay, so I can put this lecture in the backend engineering playlist as well, or the system design playlist as well, or maybe in some other lectures I will discuss in those playlist. Anyway, so like first of all, we just need to know like what is the OAuth 2.0. So first, let's clear up the biggest misconception in the industry. Like OAuth is an authorization framework, not authentication. Okay, so it is designed to grant the access to resources, not to prove who you are. So that's YDC. Okay. So that also I will discuss in the next lecture. Like what's the difference between the OAuth 2.0 versus the YDC. So uh, as of now, just know like our OAuth 2.0 is just designed to grant the access to resources, not to prove who you are. So to prove who you are, YDC is the primary point. Okay. So why do we use it? So because sharing passwords is dangerous, right? So if you want Instagram to find your friends from your Google contacts, you shouldn't give Instagram your Google password, right? So instead, Google issues a secure time limited token with specific scopes. Scopes means permissions. Okay. So if that token leaks, then the hacker can only see your contacts, not read your emails. And the token expires in an hour anyway. So after that, the hacker also not able to see your friend list as well. So why OAuth used? So you can see here what I have written like OAuth like in previous, if you wanted to log in LinkedIn or you need to find the your friends in your Gmail contacts, then you had to give LinkedIn your actual Gmail password. So this is highly dangerous, right? So the problem solved by OAuth. Okay, that like through OAuth, you need not to share your actual password to any other third-party website. So first point, that's why it's being written like no password sharing. So the user logs in directly with the provider. So there is one option, right? Through the Google account, you can also log in. So there you need not to add any password, right? Next is limited access or scopes. So like the user can grant access only to contacts, denying access to read emails. Next is token based access, like the provider issues a time limited token. So if the token is stolen, the damage is isolated and temporary. What I have told, like the hacker can only see your contacts, not read your emails. Okay. Now the core actors in OAuth. So there are mainly four co-actors. Okay. First one is the resource owner. So you are the resource owner. So the human who owns the Google account, he or she is the resource owner. Next is client. So client means the application requesting access. So like Instagram or your custom Spring Boot application. Okay. So that is the client, the application requesting the access. Next is authorization server, like the server that verifies you and issues the tokens, like Google's Auth server. It provides Google's Auth token, right? So authorization server is basically a server that verifies you. You are requesting through your application, and the and request is going to the server, and server will verify who you are, and then it will issue one token, right? Next is resource server. So the server that actually holds the data, like Google Contacts API. So the API hosting the protected data. Okay, so the resource means the data, right? So the server that actually holds the data, that is the resource server. Okay. Now OAuth grant types. So like OAuth provides multiple grant types, and that depends on your architecture. So the most important one, the industry standard for web apps, is the authorization code grant. Okay. So here I will just tell you like exact step by step flow. So uh, basically before that I have told you that there is one standard thing, like the authorization code grant is there. So but for that, like according to the grant types, what is the use cases, what is the security level for each, I will discuss. So first one is authorization code. So that is like use cases traditional web applications like server side rendering or backend APIs. Those are the use cases. So this is extremely high industry standard. Okay. So authorization code is most secure. Okay. So next is client credentials or client creds. So it is basically machine to machine. Whenever microservices will communicate with another microservice, like microservice A is one wants to invoke invoke to the microservice B. So at that point of time, client credentials are required. Okay. Or for the cron jobs as well. So there no user involvement is there. So like it is high, only machine to machine or microservice to microservice communication will be happened. So that is also security level is high. So next is password grant. So that is highly trusted internal applications like the legacy applications. So their security level is low, as you will provide the password grant there. So anti-pattern for modern applications. Now implicit grant, like old SPAs without a backend, and it is deprecated and insecure totally. So the most you need to know, like the authorization code, which the traditional web applications like the server-side rendering or the backend APIs which follow, and it is extremely high and industry standard. Okay, so we have to always follow the authorization code or the client credentials. Now, authorization code grant. Okay, that step by step with a high level design, I can explain. Like the four what we have discussed, like the core actors in OAuth. So that you can see the resource owner, the user, then the client means the app or server, then the auth server means the authorization server, and the resource server. So you can see here the whenever the login process is initiated means the user clicks the login, so the client redirects the user to the authorization server's authorization endpoint. So, but before that, like when owner clicks on the login, like initiating the login, then client actually redirect to authorize. So that is the get authorize. You can see here. And there we provide like response type as code, client ID, redirect URI. So redirect URI is here myapp.com, then callback. So Here you can see, then scope we will provide like profile email or something like, then state. Okay, so then you can see like that get authorized that API is being used, and response type also like code, then client ID that you will provide to the auth server. Then auth server will consent the screen like allow access. Okay, so if the user will be allowed to access, then user clicks the allow. Okay, next the auth server again provide the 302 redirect. Okay, so then the seventh step is like from the user to client, the callback with auth code. And next, with the post API token API codes with secrets, it's being passed from client to auth servers. And then auth server will provide the access token. Okay, access token, the JWT token. So then from the client with the get data with header bearer token, it will go to the resource server to fetch the data. And then from the resource server, the response means the secure JSON data will come as the response to the client. Okay, in this way actually the things is being done. So here also see the step by step like request authorization code, what I have told, like through the authorize API or URI, it goes to from a resource to auth server. Okay, so state is random string used to prevent the CSRF attacks. Next, user consent and redirect. So when the user logs in and clicks allow, the auth server redirects the browser back to the client with a temporary code. So like this one, like this callback, you can see this one. Like here through this, the user got the permission, right? So now callback with auth code. So this one. So user consent and redirect. Okay, with auth code. And this is the temporary code. Auth code you can see. Okay, and state also we can pass. Next is token exchange. The client's backend takes the code and exchange it for a token. So this happens actually server to server, keeping the token out of the vulnerable browser. So then from the client to auth server, the token API with the code and secrets, this API call has been done. So when client will uh, ask for the token to the auth server then will provide one JWT token, right? Then with that JWT token, now client will provide the token as a head in the header like bearer token or the base token. But here as we are fetching the JWT token, so that is the bearer token. So that bearer token we will pass in the header to get the data. So with the get data API, okay, we will do the process from the client to the resource server. So then that then when the that is proper, like the token is proper, then from the resource server, secure data will be provided. So here see the access protected. The auth server returns the access token. The client uses it to call the resource server. So their access token, refresh token, and expires in like for how much time that token will be valid. That will be also provided. That can be provided or cannot be provided. If they want to hide it, then it will be not there when you will call the access token. Okay, like that post slash token. Okay, so that's the process. So first user will be authorized. When user will be authorized, then from user to client one callback with auth code will be done, and then from client to auth server, the token API call will be done. Then auth server will provide the access token, the JWT token, and with that JWT token for particular time, like for the time that token is valid, within that time only with that particular token which auth server provided to client, the client can make a request to the resource server, and then from the resource server the secure JSON data will be provided. Okay, so that's the flow. I hope you understood that. Next one is like client credentials grant. So what is that? And one more thing, like here I can add like one point like that can be asked in your interview, like why not just send the token in step 3? Like because the browser is not secure. Okay, so by sending a temporary code first, the client forces the token exchange to happen securely on the backend. So that is from for like safe from the XSS attacks. Okay. Okay. So next is client credentials grant. But here, like what grant times like, so thing like what if you were building microservices that need to talk to each other without a human involved? So there I have told these client credentials will be used. So you use the client credentials grant, and microservice just sends the client ID and secret to the auth server and gets a token immediately. And what if you have an old legacy single page applications? In that point of time, implicit grant will be there, right? But it returns the token directly in the URL and is now considered highly insecure and deprecated. And this password grant also I've told you like you only use this for highly trusted internal applications where the user types their password directly into your app, but that is not recommended for your um, production environment, right? So now client credentials grant for microservices, like when two microservices need to communicate securely, like billing service calling the notification service, there is no human user to click allow. So the client simply sends its ID and secrets that I have told, like client ID and client secrets. You can see like grant type client credentials and their client ID and client secrets can be provided to get it when. Now OAuth versus JWT. So it is a very crucial to understand like the difference between these two OAuth and JWT. So OAuth basically is an authentication not authentication. So the name is auth, so that is for authorization. Okay. So by default, many junior developers or some people they tell like OAuth 2.0 is for the authentication framework. No, that is big no. So OAuth 2.0 is an authorization framework. So like authentication will be provided by JWT. Okay. So like from the auth server, when you will get the JWT, the access token, then with that JWT, you are getting that one means you with that token you will be authenticated. Okay, like you are getting the key. JW token is the get key itself. So like OAuth 2.0 is the authorization framework. It defines the rules, the actors, and the HTTP flows used to obtain a token. Okay, to face the token, OAuth 2.0 is helpful. And JSON Web Token, the JWT is a token format. So it defines the structure, what I have told you, like header, payload, signature. So with the header and payload, actually signature is being uh, created with some hash keys or something. So that also in detail I have explained in last two lectures. You just go there and see those videos. So it defines the structure of the token itself. Okay. So OAuth actually controls who can access what, and JWT controls how that access is verified. So who can access what? So for that actually some rules are there, some roles are there, some actors are there. Okay. So OAuth actually controls who can access. Okay. So it provides the authorizations like who can access. Always remember who. So in a sort like to remember that one, you can learn in that way like who ends with O. So O for OAuth. Okay, who can access? Like authorization. Okay, so JWT controls how that access is verified. Okay, now some top interview questions and answers I will discuss. So is OAuth for authentication or authorization? So OAuth 2.0 is strictly for authorization, delegating the access. But OIDC, OpenID Connect. Okay, OIDC full form is OpenID Connect. So that is actually on top of OAuth, and that actually provides the authentication. Now, what is the purpose of the state parameter? So it is a random string generated by the client and verified upon redirect. So it prevents the cross-site request forgery attacks during the OAuth flow. Okay, so that is basically random string. Okay, so here some state I see here for authorization. Here you can pass the state which is the random string. So it actually prevents the cross-site request forgery attacks. Okay, why use the authorization code grant instead of returning the token directly? So returning the token directly to the browser URL expose it to the browser history, logs and XSS attacks. So the code grant returns a temporary code, like authorization code grant actually provide return a temporary code which forcing the client to exchange it for a token via a secure authenticated backend to backend call, and that there are also some expiration time is provided. Okay, so without providing some token we need to use the authorization code. So authorization code provides the temporary code and forcing the client to exchange it for a token via a secure authenticated backend to backend call. Okay, now which grant type should be used for server to server microservice communication? So server to server means microservice to microservice. So there no human interventions will be there. So we can use the client credential grant. So there we can provide some client ID and client secret. Okay, here you can see. For request authorization code, we will provide this much things like client ID, redirect URI, scope, and state. But for like here, like see client credentials grant. Here we are providing the grant type like grant type is client credentials, and here we will provide the client ID and client secret. Okay. So the client credentials grant as it doesn't require user interaction. Okay. So I hope this much thing is helpful for you for your upcoming interviews or project works. Okay. If you want to know more or anything you like, then you can comment below. So till then, stay tuned and never forget to like, subscribe the channel. That actually motivates me. Thank you, everyone. Bye.